The medieval walled city of Carcassonne has been overrun with ghouls. Players must work together to eliminate the ghosts lingering in the mist, while also cooperating to collectively score enough points to complete the tile-laying challenge. Spooky, cooperative, Halloween Carcassonne. That's the hook. But wait, there's more! This isn't just a cooperative variant of the classic game, it's an expansion too. Players connect up foggy tiles to inflict negative scoring ghosts on their opponents. Amass 3 ghosts on a single meeple and you're a goner, so you'd better complete your features fast. And don't bank on that farmer being around at game end. Creepy, cutthroat, competitive Carcassonne. That's the hook. 2 Carcassonne variants for the price of 1. That's gotta be a good thing, right? I'm Adam Porter. I design games and I review them on this channel with a focus on product design. If you like what I do, please like, subscribe and comment beneath this video. Carcassonne is a legendary game, a perennial bestseller, and for many board gamers this was their entry point into the hobby. I was introduced to the game in my local game store Rules of Play back in 2011. The concept intrigued me immediately. I was shopping for a board game, but this was more like a jigsaw. But better than that, a jigsaw you could play competitively with your friends and family. In 2011, Carcassonne was already 11 years old, and 10 years on from its Spiel des Jahres win. At that point, the game boasted 8 boxed expansions, and many mini-expansions and promo items. In the subsequent 10 years, the expansions have slowed a little, though they still come along from time to time. In recent years, designer Klaus-Jürgen Raeder has focused on producing standalone Carcassonne games, each with a thematic and mechanical twist. South Seas, Gold Rush, Safari and Amazonas make up the Around the World series. But they were preceded by Hunters and Gatherers, The Castle, The City, The Discovery and New World. There was even a Star Wars edition. So what can Mists over Carcassonne bring to the table which hasn't already been covered by earlier titles in the series? Cooperative play and solo play. That's the headline twist here. I guess it was only a matter of time. In the cooperative version of Mists over Carcassonne, players follow the usual Carcassonne sequence, draw a tile, then place it so that the roads, cities and fields match up. As usual, you can place one of your meeples on a feature illustrated on the tile, and when that feature is completed with subsequent tiles, your meeple is returned to you and you score points. The new element at play here is the mists of the title. When you add one of the foggy tiles, you also add ghosts as illustrated on the tile. There are 15 of these in the supply, and if you ever run out, you lose the game. So you need to get them off the tile as quickly as you can. You do this by completing mist banks, or by foregoing points when you complete a city or road. Players' points are combined, and the goal of the game is to achieve a specific score before the tiles run out. Once you've completed this level, several new tiles are introduced. Castles are completed by surrounding them on all sides, like monasteries from the original game, but these buildings score 2 points per adjacent foggy tile. Cemeteries are less desirable. Whenever at least one ghost is added to a foggy tile, an additional ghost is added to an open cemetery. And the only way to shut the cemeteries down is to surround them on all 4 sides. At that point, all ghosts are removed, and one meeple is laid down on the cemetery to show that it's no longer open. Later levels introduce hounds, which are added to tiles when certain point totals are achieved. These tokens remove ghosts from adjacent tiles, and at the highest levels, the cemeteries work a little differently, with face-down tiles added adjacent at the end of every turn. These count as wild terrain, but prevent players from completing features which adjoin these tiles. The competitive variant requires a copy of the base Carcassonne game to play. The new tiles are combined with the original set, and players compete to get the highest score when the tiles run out. If you place a mist tile so that it adjoins a matching mist edge, you can add a ghost to the opponent's meeple, and each of these ghosts is worth -2 points. But when a meeple has 3 ghosts on it, the meeple is removed and returned to its owner. Alternatively, you can place a mist tile so that a mist adjoins a field edge, breaking the usual matching edges rule. In this instance, you have to add a ghost to one of your own meeples. Each player has regular meeples as in the original game, but also 2 guard meeples from the new game. And the guard meeples cannot be affected by ghosts, so you're going to want to save these for the highest scoring features. Cemeteries work differently in the competitive version of the game. Surrounding a cemetery awards you with an extra guard meeple. Castles work the same way as in the cooperative game, and of course, Mists over Carcassonne is compatible with other Carcassonne expansions. Let's kick off with outward appearances. I think this might be the most appealing Carcassonne cover yet. It's familiar but spooky, and beautifully illustrated by Marcel Grober. In its standard edition, Carcassonne has a fairly bland castle building theme. The expansions don't do much to address this. Inns, cathedrals, traders, builders, hills, sheep. Only the Princess and Dragon expansion has any sense of adventure or peril. But Mists over Carcassonne has a great Scooby-Doo vibe. It just looks fun. The next stage in onboarding is the rulebook, and Mists over Carcassonne has two of them, one for the cooperative game and one for the competitive variant, and both are a mess. In both rulebooks, German phrases have been overlooked by proofreaders and left among the English rules. A pictorial example in the competitive rules shows an illegal tile placement, but it lists it as legal. And there are several questions about the new mist tiles which are left unanswered in both books. I'm constantly baffled by the lack of care taken by some publishers with their rulebooks. They often really seem like an afterthought. But I guarantee that many players will never get as far as actually playing Mists over Carcassonne after struggling with the rules. Experienced gamers won't have an issue here. The concepts aren't all that complex and the intent is pretty easy to extrapolate. But Carcassonne is famous as an entry point for newcomers to the hobby, and I'm convinced that many of them will be lost. I rate games on my engagement ladder by scoring them between 0 and 3 points in 5 different categories. Total score of 10 or above tops the ladder and indicates a really engaging game. This will be a first. I'm going to give Mists over Carcassonne 2 scores, one for the cooperative game and one for the competitive expansion. For thematic immersion, both games score a 1. As with most Carcassonne games, there's no discernible narrative. We're building an attractive map with walled cities and roads, and in this version the landscape really pops because of the sheer number of three-dimensional components on the tiles. But there's no logic behind any of it, neither the turn sequence or the scoring criteria. For player interaction, the two versions diverge. The cooperative game isn't really interactive. It's really a solo puzzle, which can be played by multiple people working together. But as such, it's easily bulldozed by one alpha player, the person who can't help themselves but guide the group without listening to any ideas from their teammates. Of course, that's a criticism of many co-op games, including the classic Pandemic. But here, the game does absolutely nothing to differentiate the different players. No asymmetric player powers or abilities, no hidden information. I'll score it a 1 for interaction, because it can be fun to puzzle things out together, but it's hardly meaningful interaction. The competitive variant, on the other hand, is very interactive. It's the most cutthroat version of the game since the 2005 Princess and Dragon expansion. Placing ghosts on opponents' meeples and ideally wiping them off the board is the name of the game. If you're not up for some in-your-face destructive play, then this may not be the Carcassonne for you. But I have to say, I found this mechanism extremely enjoyable. The rule set is intuitive and exciting, and it cranks up the decision space and tension in the game. But we'll come back to that. For stress and challenge, both versions score high. The cooperative version is very tense. The first level is simple. Without cemeteries in play, the ghosts are pretty easy to keep in check, and the points total to win the game is very achievable. But once you incorporate cemeteries and then start increasing the points goals at higher levels, the game becomes tough. You're often on the brink of placing the last ghost from the supply and losing the game, only to be given a reprieve when you draw just the tile you needed to complete a mist bank, removing ghosts from the board and replenishing the supply. The competitive game has a totally different dynamic to any other version of Carcassonne that I've played. Once your features grow, a massive city with lots of shields for example, you become a target for the other players and you'll soon start to amass ghosts. Now you don't want to get to 3 ghosts and lose your meeple, allowing opponents to jump into the city that you've been cultivating, so the game becomes a frantic race to complete features before your opponents can stop you. It's delightfully tense. 3 points. Feedback describes the manner in which a game responds to the input of the players. This can come in the form of rewards or other events which occur when a player takes an action. Mists over Carcassonne offers more feedback than many Carcassonne variants. Tokens are placed onto tiles and removed from tiles at every turn, and the tokens are impactful. You really care which token is placed where. Both versions score 3 points for feedback. The final category is meaningful choices. The cooperative game does feature lots of nice decisions. Should I place this tile in a position where it reduces the pool of ghosts, or should I use it to complete a feature and advance on the score track? And there's another dilemma. When I complete a feature, do I take the points or do I remove 3 ghosts from the map? An easy decision for a tiny road or city, but much more difficult if it's a high-scoring feature on a map overrun with ghouls. One brilliant mechanism in the cooperative game is the ability for multiple players to creep into the same feature, sharing a city or road. This was always possible in the original Carcassonne game, and it was something of an advanced strategy to muscle in on other players' high-scoring territories. But in the co-op game, when a territory is shared, all players score. And since everyone's scores are combined, this amounts to doubling or trebling the value of a city or road. This is massive when you're trying to beat a tough scoring objective. But manoeuvring your way into shared features isn't easy, because as in the base game, you can't just put your meeple on a feature which is already occupied. You have to set up base nearby, and then join up the features on a later turn. Not so simple to do, but it feels great when you pull it off. I'm not scoring the co-op game full points for decisions though, because as with many co-op games, a win or loss feels like it's largely determined by the tile draw. Don't get me wrong, your tactical choices will go a long way towards achieving victory, but only if they're accompanied by a hefty dose of luck. The competitive game has great choices too, largely the age-old dilemma of whether to use a turn to further your own position, or whether to place it in such a way that it hampers your opponent. This will be the main decision you need to take on every turn, but there's also the opportunity to inflict ghosts on yourself. Sometimes the right tile comes along, exactly the tile that you need to complete your mega city or to surround your castle, but you can't place it without matching mist with field, thereby forcing you to place a ghost onto one of your own meeples. This is a lovely little decision, simple enough to be intuitive, but harsh enough to be tense and exciting. And finally, there's those guard meeples. Where do you put them? On your biggest city? Or on a farm? Or in a castle? These guys can't attract ghosts, so they ought to be reserved for your highest scoring features. But the tricky bit is working out what those are going to be. The scores are 10 for the co-op game and 12 for the competitive expansion. Magnificent scores, but I do need to deduct a point from both versions for poorly written rules. This leaves the competitive variant still sitting on the top rung of the ladder, while the co-op game has dropped just below, but still achingly close to the top. These are really engaging games. The cooperative game is unlike any other Carcassonne I've played, and a really fun solo puzzle. The competitive game might just be my favourite version of Carcassonne yet, though it is very mean, so it's probably not for everyone. Moving on to my product design checklist, is the game innovative? No. We already have dozens of Carcassonne variants, and the core gameplay is unchanged. A Halloween setting is fun, but hardly original, and solo and cooperative variants are included as part of the basic package for many modern board games, so we can't really hail that as an innovation either. But it is a testament to the creativity of Klaus-Jürgen Raeder that even after all the earlier editions, he can still produce a version of Carcassonne which feels fresh, with new ideas. Is there a need for a product like this? No, of course not. We definitely don't need any more Carcassonne. There is so much of it out there, a version for every taste. But solo and cooperative play will be appealing to regular Carcassonne players, and the Halloween theme is an appealing new setting. Will the game grow with its user? Yes, it does pretty well in this regard. The competitive game is compatible with other expansions, so it can form part of a collection of modular Carcassonne variants, and players can pick and choose modules to adapt the experience to their taste. The cooperative game follows the legacy light format we've seen in games like My City or Zombie Teens, That Time You Killed Me or Trek 12, albeit without the sealed envelopes. Every time you complete the game, new rules are introduced for your next attempt, and the game is challenging. It'll take you some time to beat all 6 levels. So all that remains is to plot the game on my idea execution matrix. A best-selling product has a fantastic commercial idea at its core, with fantastic execution from both the designer and the production team. The original Carcassonne was a magnificent, innovative, industry-changing idea, and it was executed really well by the publisher, albeit there were a few false starts with simplifying scoring and terminology over early editions, and an eventual graphic overhaul to modernise the aesthetics of the game. As a next instalment in the ongoing Carcassonne series, Mists over Carcassonne features some really good ideas. The mechanisms are clever and intuitive, but the ideas which generate sales relate more to the spooky setting and the opportunities for cooperative and solo play. These are both really solid ideas for expanding the series. The execution on behalf of the designer is excellent. The gameplay is a lot smoother than many of the standalone Carcassonne games. But the publisher dropped the ball a little with the rulebook. I can't be too mad at them though, because they did make the game look amazing. All in all, the execution is very good. I'd love to know more about the sales of Carcassonne products. What's the rationale behind the constant stream of standalone versions, which seem to have short print runs and then disappear from the shelves never to reappear? Hunters and Gatherers is the exception. This suggests that base game Carcassonne remains the big ticket item for Hans im Gluck, while standalone variants have short-term success and then drop off after a period. The fact that the publisher seems to be favouring standalone editions and big boxed expansion compilations suggests that sales for singular boxed expansions are modest. I find it fascinating watching the development of this particular legendary property. No other board game has generated this many variant rule sets. It's a testament to how wide the design space is when fleshing out any core mechanism. There are just so many different avenues for a designer to take. It's a big recommendation for Mists over Carcassonne from me. Let me know in the comments, what's your favourite version of Carcassonne? Your favourite standalone edition or combination of expansion modules? And I'll see you next time. All the best.